Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the ONOG Summer Circuit EU Qualifier number 5. I'm Osmo, once again joined by Aquablad, and we just saw Lemmy Farm take out a pretty impressive 3-1 victory over the Brazilian player Leo Main. Aquablad, what'd you think of that series?
I thought it was good. Let Me Farm showed his strengths of his deck choices, and also with the way he played. He had some good clutch moments there. And you know what, Leo Main, showed his strength as well. He had a really strong patron game, seeing that lethal with the frothing berserkers and being able to input all those actions before the rope came down. So yeah, I was impressed with both their players. But only one can win, unfortunately. But Leo Main, we'll see him again. He's got that third place match coming up.
Yeah, and he will go up against the loser of this matchup, which is going to be uh, Demosenok, or I guess he says he just wants to be called Demo or Demo. Oh man, see, I don't even know. He just wants to be called Demo, and I don't even know. I think Demo sounds cooler, so we'll call him that. Versus Sychry, Demo, of course, from Team Exceed, and Sychry is teamless. Both these guys have pretty similar deck lineups. They're both bringing Druid and Warlock. And then that third deck is Hunter for Demo and Warrior for Sychry.
Yeah, it's a common theme with the players at the moment. You tend to want to take two of the power classes, and then you kind of have some room to kind of bring something else you'd like, maybe a mage, maybe a druid. But Hunter, Warlock, and Warrior, you're more than likely going to see two of those decks appear in lineup, if not three of them. So it's always nice to see just some flavor splashed in. And it looks like the Hunter and the Warrior the flavor decks really, but it's interesting to see Warrior not being running a lineup these days. Patron being so powerful, and we saw what it was capable of in the last series. So interesting that Demo didn't actually bring it. I wonder what his choices were.
Yeah, some people just don't like it. It's a tough deck to play. A lot of players will tend to go with decks that they're comfortable with, and a lot of players have naturally become comfortable with Patron just because it feels like if you want to make a big push at the end of a season for a top legend place, you sort of have to play at least some Patron. But if he's comfortable with other decks, then he's comfortable with other decks, and looks like he's going to be playing. Dima's going to be playing mid-range Hunter, judging by the web spinner here in the Freezing Trap, and Sychry is going to be playing Warlock. We should get his mulligans up in just a second. It looks like there's a slight spectator issue.
Yeah, I think Warlock is one of the most solid choices in Conquest right now because there are so many different archetypes you can go down. You've got Mally Lock, you've got Handlock, and you've got mid-range Warlock. And it's very hard to mulligan against these decks unless you know what they are. So it's a good, strong blind pick, Warlock, at the moment in Conquest, because you kind of force your opponent to kind of predict or optimize their hands to kind of deal with everything, or optimize their hands to deal with just one thing they think is going to be picked. So I really like Warlock in Conquest. It's probably my favorite class for that format.
Yeah. Yep. And we'll see what kind of Warlock it actually is. Looks like Handlock, unless he's just whiffing on his turn 2 with the Demon Zoo. Actually, it looks like Malagos Warlock.
Yeah, I would say this is probably Malilock. Imgam Boss, Big Game Hunter, and Anti-Killbot, they're kind of the cards you see in.
Soulfire as well.
Yeah, Imgam Boss is probably the biggest giveaway with Implosion. That's Malilock at the start until he drew that Soulfire, which guarantees it's going to be Malilock. How do you find this matchup? Because Malilock is a deck that I really haven't played with. I'm more of a mid-range Zoo Handlock player, and I've kind of just stuck with them. So have you had any experience with the deck?
I think mid-range Hunter is favored by quite a big margin here. The Malilock just doesn't have any way to block enough damage to give them time to pressure, because they don't really pressure. They wait for combos, and a lot of time they don't have the luxury of being able to use their combo pieces as combo pieces. So basically what it comes down to, if they don't hit their one of their AoE spells and can clear the board and develop something big by like the mid game, turn 4 or 5, they just lose, because they just don't have any way to block damage. They don't have the luxury of Molten Giant taunt. They don't have the luxury of even just an Ancient Watcher taunt early game to block damage. They have one Defender of Argus usually, maybe a Sludge Belcher, and then 2 heal bots. And a lot of times that's just not enough, or it feels like it's not enough.
And the thing with Hunter, once it realizes it's Malilock, they don't need to hold back anymore. They don't need to kind of keep them at 17, 18 health at a point in the game where they can push for that burst. They can just go crazy. They can do as much damage as they want.
which
And
is
this is a
scary.
yeah, and giving Hunter that kind of flexibility is scary, like you said, in itself. And looking at this turn, this is really bad for the Mally Lock, I think. It's thrown away two of its win conditions here because Dart Bomb's a very big part of the combo. So he's going to have to rely on Soulfires, but I think it's just going to come down to stabilizing for the Mally Lock here. And that kind of runs out of resources, and he can maybe just beat him on board and maybe just throw that Soulfire Malagos just to finish off. But he's probably not working towards that. He's probably just mainly working towards stabilizing as quickly as possible.
Yeah, this is actually the hand that you want when you're playing against Hunter as a Malilok. You want your burn spells in your hand because that's how you win. You use your burn spells to just control the board early. Like Imp Gang Boss, Mortal Coil, Implosion, Dark Bombs. Those are still really good like anti-aggro tools. And then you just try and like grind them out, and hopefully your heal blots are enough to bring you to the point where you can push for lethal. And actually, Demo has just a terrible hand. So that's one thing that he's got going for him is that that Sychry has going for him is just Demo just whiffs on turn 4 completely, which is terrible in this matchup. So Ooze is also another great pickup. So even though I think this matchup is Hunter favored, I really like this hand from Sychry. We'll see if he can try and pull together a win. I'd like to see just a heal bot here.
He has answers to pretty much everything here. Mortal Coils to deal with those pesky 1/1s like Web Spinners or Haunted Creeper spawns. He's got the Big Game Hunter in case of Dr. Boom shows up. Implosion is a little dangerous sometimes against a Hunter. That Unleash the Hounds can be a good counter to it, but it's still a way to hard remove. If he picks up a Hellfire anytime soon, he'll just have everything he needs to keep in the game, at least for the first few turns.
Yeah. You can see Demo just looks visibly shaken by not being able to smork something there. Just hero powering on turn 4 is a huge deal if you're a mid-range hunter. You have so many powerful turn 4 plays. Like Paladin Shredder. You could even just play 2/2 drops. A Haunted Creeper and a Mad Scientist would have been fantastic there. Even just a Haunted Creeper and then hero powering would have been even better. But he misses, and now his hand still isn't that great. He can Haunted Creeper and Hero Power. He can Unleash and Haunted Creeper, but both of those plays seem really weak.
Yeah, I agree. It's an awkward spot for him because, as we know, Midrange Hunter very much relies on the momentum of the early turns to get going. It looks like he's going to go for a kill command on the anti-kill bot here, taking away 5 damage bursts from his game plan altogether. Now he's only got 1 left. And I guess he wants to set up for a freezing trap next turn. I assume that's what he's going for. Or just not let...
a Molten Giant.
Oh, okay. So maybe he splashed in the Molten Giants here to help deal with these matchups.
Whoa. Okay, well, I think this changes things a little bit. Depending on how many taunt givers he has, I think just that card alone might change the dynamic of this matchup completely. That's really interesting. I'm curious to see what else he's got in store with this deck, because this is super unique. There's a Sunfury Protector. Wow, a Sunfury Protector is actually a card that you don't find at all in standard Malagos Warlock decks, like the old ones. It's been a long time since it's been popular, I guess, on ladder, maybe 2-3 weeks, but Sunfury Protector Molten Giant is not something that I'm used to seeing.
Going back just to Sychry's last turn, Implosion and that Haunted Creeper is very smart of him. He's playing around Houndmaster, and I think the kill command on the anti-kill bot before kind of put a read that he wanted to protect this Haunted Creeper because trading in your Imp Gam boss and a 1/1 didn't completely clear it and just made it a bit awkward. So a really good read from him there, and it kind of forced Demo to just play the Shredder and pass. He didn't want to Hounds just yet because he probably wants to get a Houndmaster on one of those Hounds himself. But yeah, it's interesting. I think this deck that Sychry's playing is kind of an idea. What was Zosus had with Handlock. He kind of splashed in demons. He just had Moltons and demons. So maybe he's kind of going that way with the just Mally Lock with the Moltons because it's been done before.
Yeah, I actually really like this. It's pretty innovative. It'll take people by surprise because right now they're just not used to seeing it. So it feels I feel like it's going to work out really nicely for him. Especially since Demo has just been using his cards really inefficiently so far this game. He knows that his hand is not that good. So draws in the second heal bot as well. So now he's got that little bit of extra insurance. He can afford to tap a little bit more to draw into some bigger threats, bring him closer to that Mole Giant because he knows he'll just be able to go back up with the second heal bot already in hand.
Yeah, the Molten Giant heal bot combo is it can swing the board and kind of the health game quite heavily, especially if this hunter starts running out of steam, which he probably will soon because, like I said, his draws and his plays have been so unoptimized. He's kind of having to make suboptimal plays and not using his cards in the best manner. So it's just looking so comfortable for Sychry here.
So we've confirmed that there is a Malagos. I love this deck. Super cool.
Oh, I like that play. He's gonna try and force him to deal with this Owl and this Sun Fury, so he doesn't get such a good freezing trap target. I guess that's a creeper pickup from earlier. That's an interesting card that come into this match right now. You can kind of deal with quite a few things.
With Houndmaster, it's actually pretty scary. Because all of a sudden it becomes a 4/10. A 4/10 that kills anything it touches. So like you can't valuably trade into it. And he knows that an owl is down already, so he can't really deal with it that easily, especially since his 4-tech creatures are usually tough to deal with anyway.
It's such a bulky minion with Houndmaster 4/10, like you said. It's like the old Snapjaws back in mid-range Hunter back in the day, where you have this giant taunt that a lot of decks just couldn't punch through without the silence. When Zoo was really popular as well, and they have that one owl, and they didn't have it for that Snapjaw. That Snapjaw would just sit there and just take everything.
Yeah. So basically, he has to decide what creature he wants to die. Because no matter what he throws out, it's just probably going to get traded in by the Maexna. So, looks like he's going to go with Emperor Thorsan here, just to reduce the cost of some cards. This will make it so he's got sort of a secondary win condition with Malagos Soulfire at least. He would have been able to play that in turn 10 regardless, but maybe he'll be able to pick up. Actually, has he used both Dark Bombs?
He has, yes. He used them very early on.
So I guess it won't even matter then.
Oh, wow. So that Huffer is going to make this a very aggressive game plan going forward for Demo. We're looking at Sychry's hand. He's got ways to stabilize, but this is a lot of damage. He could really struggle if kill commands and quick shots start coming into the picture.
Yeah. I mean, the Maexna hidden behind a taunt is so difficult because all of a sudden he hits a Soulfire. Because all of a sudden his Molten Giant is just going to die for free. So he has to, like, Molten Giant, Twilight Drake, Sun Fury.
Do you feel you have to heal bot here? Do you think discarding heal bot would be just too dangerous because he's already used one?
Wow. Yeah, he needs to. I think he needs to taunt up as well. Maybe if he heal bots, he'll have a little bit of wiggle room, but most likely he'd have to Soulfire the Maexna, which means he would leave 12 damage, 14 guaranteed with hero power. So the taunt would actually block more damage than Healbot would, but I agree, risking discarding it would be pretty bad. I guess with this line of play he can fit in everything. It's less taunt, but he gets to do both, so this works.
I like this. It's really good. I think that's a really good play from him. I guess discarding the use is not too bad here. It hasn't really found much use. I think Big Game Hunter and Ooze are pretty good actually. Maybe not discarding that with. Actually, I go back on that. He probably wants to keep hold of that. Do you think the Malagos has much relevance in this matchup anymore?
No, I with how many cards he's put in, he probably only runs one Soulfire. Um, I'm not too sure because this deck is just super interesting. But I would imagine that that's the case because he needs room to find, or he needs to get rid of something to find room for Molten Giants and Sunfury Protectors. Maybe some of the mid-range stuff like Sludge Belcher. We haven't seen Blackman Corruptors yet, but I'm just not sure exactly what he would cut in favor of those.
Okay, testing the freezing trap. Gonna find out it's explosive. You can see from his expression there, kind of a little raised eyebrow, like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Didn't expect that. So, yeah, he didn't really get the read there, but he didn't have enough information on this hunter at this point, really, to make the call. I guess you kind of just assume it's freezing because you've seen one already.
It's one of the strengths of Hunter right now is you just never know. Because even the heavy mid-range hunters will sometimes just put in an explosive trap just to mess with you. Or snake trap, so it's there's never like a standard thing. Oh, here comes the Malagos. He's sort of all in now. He's saying, well, I just hope you don't have damage.
That's a bad draw there.
Yeah.
Huh. That's unfortunate.
You just play it. You can't deal with it. Because one of these is going to get frozen and the other one has 4 attacks, so it can't trade into a Kodo. Unless he draws into a taunt or ends up... Oh, wow! That's big.
So he's running quite a bit of taunt in this. Sun Furies and Argus, maybe one of each. I'd like to see this list, to be honest. It's very interesting. It's such a tight list anyway. Miley Lock squeeze because I mean they find it, they do struggle to find places for taunts anyway, so being able to fit in Molten Giants as well, I just wonder what he cuts. It must be a Soulfire and a few other bits and pieces, maybe a big game hunter because they're running 2 big game hunters these days, Mally Lock, so
yeah,
be interesting to see what he plays. This is such a strong turn. 5-13.
How do you get through that? A 5-13 without an owl?
Man, we thought that my X-Note was going to be big if it got high mastered, but this is giant. And it still has the spell power buff, so if he does find any spells, maybe he finds another Soulfire if he has one, he still has some burst available to him.
Savannah Highman's probably the best draw on his deck, maybe other than a Quick Shot, because Quick Shot would put him on a clock. But now he's on a 2-turn clock himself, so...
And Abusive Sergeant. I want to see this list. Where is he finding all the space for this? It's incredible.
Nice. He finds a BGH target. Oh, and then he can Shadow Flame his Defender Vargas.
Well, he doesn't have to. You can do the Abusive Sergeant.
Abusive Sergeant, yeah, that's true.
So
I think you just go for it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. You don't want to run into kill command here, so you kind of make him draw. He has to draw a Quick Shot into something to win the game.
Quick Shot into kill command.
Oh, never Haunted Creeper on the top deck. That's the second one we've had, which has just ended a hunter's life here.
A super interesting deck from Sychry. He's going to take game number 1. That's a rough matchup to go into, but the way he teched this deck here with the Moltens, with multiple taunts instead of just a single Defender Vargas like most Malilocks, he got his removal spells early. Even though he threw away his burn, he knew that it comes down to a grindy game, so you cannot be greedy with those spells. And super well played, and it's going to give him a lead in the series.
Kind of these homebrew hybrid decks, especially like this one here, I think it's a really strong opening pick because you straight away put in your opponent's head, as soon as you say the Imp-Gang boss and then they see a Twilight Drake, they'll be like, oh, it's, like we said earlier, it's the Malilocks, so I can kind of go crazy on his health total here, and then all of a sudden these Molten Giants start coming down with these taunts, and it's a completely different matchup. You don't know what the matchup is anymore. So it's a very strong opening pick there for Sychry, and it's paid off for him. He takes game number 1.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Demo won't find too much trouble finding a win with the Hunter, because he's going to go up against Druid. It's a mid-range Hunter. He's going to be going up against Druid and Warrior, which no matter what kind of Druid or what kind of Warrior it is, he's going to have a good matchup. So I think that he's still going to be able to find a win with the Hunter. It just depends on which victim he gets it with. So judging by the deck lineups and their one-on-one matchups, I still think it's going to be pretty close. But we'll definitely have to see. We're going to go into Sychry is going to throw out the looks like Control Warrior. Wow.
It's coming back, man. I've seen a lot of it recently, and Demo, he's kind of queued in a good matchup for him. So himself with the mid-range druid. So perhaps this is the win he's kind of looking for. But the Fiery War Axe is definitely a good pickup here, especially seeing that piloted Shredder. So he's got some early game leverage, but sometimes it just doesn't matter. The druid will always have the pressure it needs come mid to late game, where it can just deal so much damage to that combo, and the controller just kind of exhausts all its resources, and the druid just keeps playing stuff, and then it removes it and just keeps playing more stuff, and it's just such a struggle for controller. So maybe Sychry has some interesting techs in this deck, which might help him win this game.
Yeah, I don't. It's going to be tough for Sychry to find a win with Control Warrior. Every single deck that Demo has a favorable matchup against it. Mid-range Druid, mid-range Hunter, and well, it depends what kind of Warlock it is. If it's a Zoo Warlock, then yeah, he's got favorable matchups against everything. Oh, we got the one-eyed cheat! That's perfect!
You can see from his face, and he was not impressed.
Yeah.
And this is a gamble you play with Shredder. I mean, you gotta kind of be used to it by now. He's been in the metagame for a long time. You just kind of have to accept anything that comes from it, even if it's a Doomsayer or an Annoyatron that blocks it lethal. And there's a lot of things that Shredder can do to kind of swing the game. And I think as a player, you just kind of just have to laugh it off and accept it does happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah. So double brawl teched in for Sychry. Definitely for the Patron matchup. Also helps against Zoo. Not so much against the modern versions of Zoo, the heavier mid-range Zoos, just because they have so many pesky death rattle creatures that sometimes Brawl leaves you with just as much power on the board as before you brawled. But I definitely like it in the Patron matchup. It improves the consistency at which you draw it by the time Patrons start to come out. And the second one actually usually has a use. So.
And it's usually a surprise as well. If you can keep that hidden away and win the game with the Warrior, it's too late. The Brawls have done their job. And it kind of plays into what Sychry's been doing with his decks recently. In this series specifically, he's kind of had these interesting tech choices, which last game we saw him pay off, so maybe this double Brawl will help with this matchup. But it's a mid-range Druid controller is a classic mid-range favorable matchup.
Mm-hmm. And he's starting to get to... He hasn't taken too much pressure early on. Demo was forced to cycle the Wrath just because he wasn't happy with the quality of his hand. And Sychry, if he can get into... Oh, Ancient of Lore is actually pretty good draw here. He's going to be able to play that next turn, and possibly next turn, most likely next turn, and start pushing for damage here.
Yeah,
Ooh, gave him an extra armor there.
We'll see if it matters.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate he kind of had a bit of a mechanical error there. But maybe he's a bit nervous, you know. This is probably one of his, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of his kind of first big tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like it. So he's been playing TCGs for 10 years, this is Demo, but he doesn't really mention that he's played any big tournaments, and he seems quite excited of getting some BlizzCon points. So yeah, nerves do come into play in these matches. We're only human at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yep. I've been there many times before, where I've given my opponent even more than one extra armor. Where I forgot to trade into the Armor Smith, and then you play a Whirlwind effect, and then all of a sudden you give them 6 armor by accident. The Mana Addict.
That card can be so deadly in the right deck. If you
Yeah.
get a Mana Addict and you're playing Rogue, that becomes a scary card, a very scary card.
It used to be part of Miracle Rogue, the original Miracle Rogue. Well, I think one like Reckless, or Wreckful. Sorry, Wreckful. Got League of Legends on the brain. Wreckful. His first Miracle Rogue deck was Mana Addicts and Questing Adventurers with Conceals. That was the thing back then. So you could make with preps and auctioneers, you could get turns where you drew 8 cards and had all of a sudden like a 15, 16 plus damage mana addict.
And then they just realized Leroy was better.
Leroy Shadowstep did the same for 3 cards.
And you didn't have to leave something on board to kind of brew and get removed. It just did it instantly.
Yep.
The good old days, hey, of Rogue.
Yep. It's amazing how bad our decks were when we first started playing.
I mean, to be fair, it takes that kind of experimentation to kind of get to where these decks come to in the end. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the other archetypes have gone through a lot of experimentation. Maybe not to that extent of where we were using kind of janky cards like that, but it still takes a bit of work. This Harrison's going to do a lot of work to get rid of some of his removal options. I mean, I'm pretty sure he wanted that to clear up the Ancient of Law.
Wow.
Oh, and a low Feb as well. That's going to lock out both of these brawls, make them completely useless, and the pressure's on.
Yeah, all he has here is a Sludge Belcher to try and block some of this. Yeah.
Ouch.
You might think about Grom here, but if you throw Grom into something, I guess it's a lot. It is proactive. It forces him to. It'll 2-for-1 most likely. It's vulnerable to BGH, but like Sludge Belcher, he could pick and choose what he trades into it and still leave his board in a strong state. So he might just want to try and block as much damage as possible by going with the Grom now.
The one thing Sludge Belcher does play to is Brawl, because even if he does pick and choose kind of like you said, what kind of board state he wants to be left with, at least he gets he gets the Brawl next turn. But Grom, as you said, is kind of like an active way to deal with it, and he still has the option for the Brawl after that. It's kind of tough. You've got to kind of decide what you value more. I mean, Grom, Controller has loads of win conditions anyway, so losing the Grom here probably won't be such a big deal. He doesn't find that Force of Nature. That would have closed out the game if he managed to pull it off. He still has Savage Draw and Swipe. Is that? And I don't think that's enough.
It's 24 damage, 25 with hero power. Because 12
So
on board plus 8 from the Savage Draw is 20, 24 with the Swipe, 25 with the hero power.
Yeah, he's a little bit out of range there.
Is he cycling? Wow.
Huh.
What's he going to throw into the Grom now? I guess he's just going to swipe anyway. This is still going to push a lot of damage here. And looks like he's just not going to play too much into Brawl here, which is a really big deal. He realized that Sychry's had 3 cards in his hand for a long time this game. When he locked him out with Loatheb, all he did was play Grom. So now he'll be able to Brawl and then deal with whatever comes out of it, most likely with Execute. Unless it's Loatheb, then he's probably just screwed.
Demo praying for Loatheb there.
Very
the
animated
thumbs
play.
down. I like Demo. I like how
Yeah.
interactive he is with his camera. It's nice to see players having fun with these kind of RNG situations.
Yeah, and Sychry is on the point of stabilization, but Demo's still just drawn into threats here. Finds combo as well, so he's going to put Sychry on a clock here. And if he plays Sludge Belcher this turn, is he still just... I think he's still just dead, because the Shade will line up...
Yeah, Shade in the hero power.
Well,
then you
19 damage, yeah. So even if he armors up and plays Sludge Belcher here, he's still dead to combo.
I guess you could go for the other Brawl, but it still doesn't... I mean, Brawl into Belcher may keep him alive, but...
It's the
very
best line
ambitious.
of play here. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the only way he lives because if Demo has combo, then you know if he does the math correctly that if he plays Sludge Belcher, he's dead. So I think the only way he lives here is if he brawls, Shade comes out. Actually, if he brawls and Ancient of War comes out, then he's still alive, but barely. Oh
Huh.
wow, he's actually just gonna Whirlwind Armor Up Shield Slam at Belcher. This is a more consistent way to keep himself alive, I suppose.
Yeah, this is really good. Good play from him. I mean, Sychry's made a lot of these excellent plays throughout the series so far. I really like some of his decision making he's made in the game, especially in that Warlock game last. We kind of looked at what he could do, and he just thought of something better. So he's really shown some strength as a player here. But this is what Druid does at this point. I mean, Warrior gets to this situation where it's just hasn't got the removal to deal with the constant flow of minions anymore, and you're just so afraid of combo.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that he can draw here to. What?
Well,
Shield block.
shield
So
slam.
yeah, combo next turn would be 2 6 plus 6, 12 plus 14. That would be a little bit less than that. He'd still be dead, I think.
It's such a tough match. I mean, we kind of said straight from the beginning here that he was going to have a really hard time winning this game. And double brawl, although I don't really think it's a tech choice for Druid, didn't really make that much of a difference. I don't think. And Demo was good to play around the first brawl. He didn't commit too much to the board. He let him play his brawl. He wanted to see the brawl first before he started committing. I think it's important here for Sychry to keep this brawl hidden. Because
Yeah,
Demo doesn't know about it yet. It could play a very important factor into the next game.
I believe he's exactly dead, and I think one over. Because 14 from combo plus the 6 from Shade is 20, plus the 4 from Keeper is 24. He's got exactly 24 health.
And he gets the
Even
hero powers and innovate as well, so yeah, a
yeah.
lot of damage.
Well, an age-old matchup with an age-old result here. Combo Druid taking out the Control Warrior. And Demo's going to go ahead and tie up the series, and I'm really worried for this Control Warrior. It really depends on what Warlock Demo's bringing, but most Warlocks have favorable matchups against Control Warrior. So he's going to have to go up against mid-range Druid and any type of Warlock. It's going to be a rough day. A rough day for Sychry.
What Warlock would you want to see as a controller? I guess Lock is probably a better option. I mean, Double Brawl will
Lock,
help
yeah.
against Handlock though, because you won't expect he hasn't seen a second brawl yet, and maybe after the first brawl, if he was playing Handlock, Demo might commit too much to the board, and the second brawl might come into play there. But he still has to draw both brawls, and the Handlock just draws more cards than a Warrior anyway. So it's like you said, it's kind of awkward for the Control Warrior across the board. But I guess Lock would be the best matchup for him.
Lock would probably be the best matchup because you get above 30 health, so you make their combos not as potent, and you have enough. They don't have enough big threats to where your removal doesn't line up. Like your removal lines up really nicely against Malagos Warlock usually. Like you can throw, but it depends what kind of Malagos Warlock, I guess. So looks like Demo's just gonna throw out the mid-range hunter first, and Sychry's gonna try his hand with the Control Warrior once again, and this matchup's tough. And the slower the hunter, the tougher the matchup is. Warriors just don't have a good way to deal with high mains. It's just, I don't know. It's nothing lines up with it because you deal with the first iteration, and then all of a sudden the 2/2s pop out, and you just don't have a way. Like there's no clean way to do it. You're like 3 for 1ing usually a Savannah high main.
And even with one expansion and 2 adventures, controllers still don't have a good way to deal with it. I mean, Deathbite does clear the high main, but it doesn't clear the death rattle. So again, they rely on silences, or they rely on, say, popping the high main and brawling. It's and silence is not something you see in Control Warriors as much as you used to. You used to see kind of spell breakers, owls, depending on how people feel, but Like Dragon Control, for example, is very tight on slots because it obviously has all the Dragon tech in it, and Control Area just, I don't know, just don't see it as much anymore.
Yeah, this hand is actually pretty good for Sychry, though. He's got ways to get through the early game with the Acolyte and Cool Taskmaster. He's got Sludge Belcher and Shield Block, Shield Slam, so that'll help him deal with the heavier hitting creatures.
But getting that high main, really well, even getting in his mulligan is generally pretty good for the hunter.
Yeah.
Actually, is he going for the hunter's mark here? No.
Deny
Okay.
a draw.
I think the hunter's mark will find more value later.
Yeah. And being able to curve Loatheb into Hymen is actually a pretty big deal because you sort of secure some of your board. You force the warrior to have an inefficient turn, and then you plop down the high main, so it makes it even tougher. So usually you have a Loatheb and a high main on the board.
Should we just go for the hunter's mark?
Both shield blocks, huh? It's a lot of life gain.
Both shield blocks, both shield slams. He's got. See, I don't like shield slamming pallet shredders because you just don't feel like you deal with it. It just feels inefficient.
Especially if like a succubus comes out, you shield slammed it for nothing.
Yeah, you threw away shield block, shield slam, and did nothing. It's pretty tough. It's nice to have a fiery war axe in that situation where you can maybe like shield slam it first and finish off whatever comes out, but he doesn't have that luxury, unfortunately. He might just have to fish here, hopefully find something to help him deal with his board that's being developed by Demo.
Or he's going to hope that it's like a Captain Spirit or a Novice Engineer, so that way he can just throw his Acolyte of Pain in, get a draw, and deal with what's on the board. The momentum that Powder Shredder can create. The Puddle Stomper.
That's decent. 3-2 is decent. I mean, Demo's shredders haven't been totally in his favor as of recent. I mean, I guess a beast would have been a lot better. He would have had some high master synergy, but he just gets to play
like a Haunter Creeper or a Scavenging Hyena. That would have been perfect.
But he just plays this for tempo here, for just kind of 4-3 body. And this is, I mean, me and my teammates all play mid-range hunter, and two of us favor two Hindmasters and one Shredder, whereas our other one just prefers two Shredders and one Hindmaster, so he doesn't rely on any comboing. But I just love Hindmaster synergy with the deck. It's just a great card, I think.
Yeah. I'm a two Shredder, one Houndmaster kind of guy.
I'm a hunter, man.
Sorry,
I want those beasts. I want those beasts. I want that beast synergy. I want more beasts in the next expansion. I would love the old Beast Master Hunter to come out where you just didn't need bows or traps. You just rely on kind of board momentum from strong beast cards. I'd like to see that come back into the game.
I want to see more cards that are designed to be utility cards that people are just going to throw at the face.
Huh?
Like Quick Shot.
Oh yeah, we could do another then. I think Quickshot was such a strange choice to develop a card for Hunter. I didn't feel like it needed Quickshot. It's just like, let's just give him Dark Bomb, but a better version.
Yeah,
Why?
exactly.
Why? Very strange choice.
That has a chance to draw a card doesn't freeze. Well, I mean, they always talk about how Warlock cards have to be weaker because of the hero power.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
a lot of Warlock class cards are just worse versions of other cards. Or, I mean, in a roundabout way, could be considered worse versions of other cards. So
where'd you go with this play? Do you play Loatheb and clear, or?
Yeah,
I mean,
it seems like just throwing in the Puddle Stomper and the Mad Scientist and... Okay. This works, I suppose. Preserves two creatures instead of one. Quickshot is... in mid-range hunter is a lot of times used just for board control because it's more important in the matchup.
Yeah, it's not really used as kind of the burn spell face hunter kind of values from it. But this way he... I guess he could use his Loatheb to protect high main on a turn as well, which might be a bit stronger because it's control-wise. It's going to be a slower game anyway.
Yeah, so Sychry's actually in a pretty good spot because he does have a way to deal with this high main with the Deathbite already equipped. And, well, I guess Cruel Taskmaster is just going to plop into the freezing. So he will be able to get away with these Two twos. He's actually going to protect this freezing trap. Okay, I like this. Or make him. I don't know what that attack was for.
Because he's seen explosive already.
Yeah.
I think it was a mind game.
Okay. Because the web spinner's going to die to the whirlwind effect anyway. But if he really wanted to, he could attack the cool Taskmaster into the freezing trap. Yeah. I guess he realizes that the web spinner's just going to die, and he just values forcing the cool Taskmaster to die if he uses the Death Bite, as opposed to getting one extra face damage in.
All right, so test the trap, get the freezing. I think he'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
Even if it was snakes or something, he's got a response. And things are starting to look like this. Things are starting to look good for him. He's starting to stabilize a little bit, and he has answers to a lot of the stuff that Demo's got. Apart from that Stranglethorn Tiger, which is something I've been using in Midrange Hunter quite a bit recently. I really like it. I think it's got that beast synergy, but it also punches with Sludge Belchers, which is always a great thing for a 5-drop.
Guaranteed 5 damage somewhere. Unless there's like a brawl. Or a flare.
Or a flare. Oh, that's old school. There was a day where hunters used to run 2 flare and 2 tracking just for maximum cycle. I miss those. I liked that variation of hunter, a very heavy cycle, kind of mid-range version. It was good fun. I just like having options all the time.
With Colt Master. Colt Master too. Unleash the Hound's Colt Master.
Hey, that was when Buzzard was still a thing.
You could just go through your whole deck in a turn, like Buzzard, Unleash, and Colt Master. You draw cards when they come out, and you draw cards when you trade them in.
It's a miracle hunter, right?
Yeah. They don't need any more miracles. So it looks like he's just going to Whirlwind Armor up is the play here. I don't think he can really leave 2 1-health hounds or these hyenas on the board.
I think that's fine.
He also has the option of playing Sludge Belcher, but it's a difference.
This way he clears up the beast so no more
Houndmasters
can come around and ruin his day.
Yeah, that's also true. The Houndmaster is a pretty big thing to consider. All right. Demo's not happy with that. He's going to go ahead and play the Stranglethorn Tiger. We're having a little bit of... That Whirlwind was so powerful that it shook the screen.
Just slaying all those beasts. No Houndmaster for you today.
Demo's playing with something. Uh-oh. Here we go. If Stranglethorn Tiger comes out... Oh, no!
Oh!
5 mana to take out 2 power on the board. Demo's like, okay, that's revenge for the last brawl.
I like that little shrug at the end. He's like, it happens. It's RNG. I've suffered. You suffer.
Now he's going to end up taking like 10 damage from the Stranglethorn Tiger. Well, I guess not because he can execute it the next turn, but that's game. Double kill command, and that's going to... Wow. That is brutal for Sychry. Absolutely brutal.
So we were saying he was stabilizing, and then Stranglethorn's Tiger survived the brawl, and then he was dead.
And then he died. That's incredible. All right, well, that's got to be pretty heartbreaking for Sychry, because I feel like he played that really well. But Demo was able to just get the fortunate brawl and then burn him out in the next turn. So Demo just has 1 deck remaining to win. It's just a Warlock, and we haven't seen it yet. So we'll, depending on what type of Warlock it is, I think he's got a pretty good chance, especially if it's like a Zoo. If it's Demon Zoo, then he has favorable matchups against both of these decks from Sychry. So 2 opportunities to win, looking like Demo's in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, Demon Zoo would definitely be the best pick here. Mali God would probably be the worst, but you know, it can still win. It can still win against Druid, and it is actually Demon Zoo, so things are looking very strong for Demo. Like you said, this This deck just stomps Druid usually. Warrior can really struggle if it doesn't find that early game removal, so it's looking really good for him.
Indeed. It's like he's got an uphill battle now. That last one, that was he was hoping that was going to be the crucial win that he needed.
It's like you said, this Warrior may be the liability in the lineup, especially against Demo's lineup. So he's going to want to find a win here, not just to sustain his, keep the game going, but you don't want to go into the third place matchup with this control Warrior just getting stomped. You want to do some work, just for a bit of confidence.
Yeah. And he hasn't hit his weapons. Deathbite is such an important card in this matchup. It used to be an important card, and now it's even more of an important card just because like cards like Imp Gang Boss it lines up with. And if he doesn't hit it here, uh-oh.
This is like the dream tempo play for a Demon Lock.
Yeah.
Like turn 2 Egg, turn 3 Void Terror, especially if the Warrior's got nothing on board, and you've just got a lot of stats on the board very early, and it forces out a Shield Slam here, which is fine. I mean, he's going to have to start using this removal anyway. But yeah, it's looking good for him. Demon Zoo is doing work, is doing zoo things, playing minions, making it hard for the Warrior.
Yeah, Sychry does have ways to fight back here. There's a Deathbite. Okay, that is actually a really big pickup. That might just swing the match back in his favor, and it's crazy how just one card in so many matchups affects so many things. He has Sludge Belcher. He's got Shield Maiden to sort of stabilize later in the game. He's got Cool Taskmaster Execute to deal with a Doomguard or Mal'Ganis. So again, Sychry looks like he's in the point of stabilization, but we saw last game that sometimes that really doesn't mean too much. Warlocks don't have ways to put you on a clock as much as Hunters do, so he will feel a little bit less threatened as the game goes on because they just don't have a way to like burn you out as quickly. But I'd say he's okay at the moment.
Yeah, his hand was looking kind of clunky at the start, but he's drawn into the things he needs. And yeah, like you said, he's stabilized. And then, like you said, Warlock really much rely on Power Overwhelming and the Doomguards to do any bursts, but it's not. I mean, you'll always kind of predict 5 damage from Doomguard. Overwhelmings are usually quite surprising if they come with a Doomguard, so you can kind of be quite safe if they've got no board, if you've got over kind of like 5 health, really, because you're only really going to expect 5 from the Doomguard.
Yeah.
And it's looking good for him. It's a shame he hasn't got that Whirlwind effect again to deal with the rest of this board, but he's got Cruels, he's got Fireys. Cruels are going to be great minions to trade in with. He's looking good.
I'm a little curious why Demo went for the Implosion last turn. Power Overwhelming lined up really nicely with the Sludge Belcher. He could have like owled Power Overwhelming, cleared it off the board, and then played Imp Gang Boss. It would have been weak to like something like second Deathbite, but this play just seemed really inefficient. It plays around Brawl slightly more because he keeps the Haunted Creeper alive, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do like what you suggested. And, Power Overwhelming is just a fantastic card for someone like Haunted Creeper to deal with the Belcher. And then you would have had this Implosion to throw at the Shield Maiden this turn now, so you may have had a way to deal with it then, but yeah, it's looking a bit awkward. So double Voidwalker, and so he's emptying his hand ready for the Doomguard, and you'll probably be able to get the throw into Power Overwhelming as well for next turn. So things are looking pretty decent, unless one of 2 Brawl shows up.
Yeah. Armorsmith is not one of those, but he does have a way to fight for board here. He's got 8 total mana, so he could play like double Cruel Task, Armorsmith, and Fire Warx all on the same turn. Then his hand would just be double Execute Harrison, which is not that great of a hand quality, but at least he'd have nearly an empty board.
and he's got minions to fight anything else Demon decides to drop. And those executes, well, one of those executes is more than likely going to hit that Doom Guard. So yeah, I like that. It develops a big board, deals with a couple of minions, and you know he starts challenging Demon's border presence right now, which is what Zoo is all, well, mid-lock Zoo is all about.
Yeah. If he picks up a 2-drop here, it'll work out really nicely because he'll be able to just empty his hand for Doomguard. Armorsmith's actually really annoying because he just doesn't have any way to deal with it besides throwing in a lot of creatures and giving him a lot of armor.
I might just see the one cruel task. Or is he gonna? No, it looks like he's going for the second. I mean, he could have kept hold of the second task, so he had the option of cruel task execute. But it's going to be pretty tough for Demo to deal with this board.
Oh yeah, there we go. Oh,
Huh.
he had a chance to empty his hand to play Doomguard.
Oh, okay. So Overwhelming here could deal with the Armorsmith, but it's probably going to deal with a Shield Maiden, I imagine. And he gets to play that Void. He gets to play Juggler into Voidcaller, which sets up a nice Doomguard for him later. But I'm surprised he didn't actually go for the Doomguard there. It would have just been a. I guess it's quite easy to be dealt with. Maybe he can bait out some removal on the Voidcaller and stuff, or just make him a bit more cautious. Because the one thing I like about Voidcaller as a card is it's a card of mind games. It's a very scary card if it brings out something super powerful like a Doomguard or a Mal'Ganis, and it just puts that thought into your opponent's head of what does he have in his hand that would, and can I deal with it if I do decide to clear this Voidcaller? So it's a good like kind of mind games card.
Yeah. Ysera's a good pickup just because there's absolutely no way for a Demon Lock to deal with it. The Demon Zoo to deal with it. So Sychry's gotten so much value from this Armorsmith. He's gained, I think, like 6 or 7 health from it already. He's going to be able to play Ysera safely next turn. So he's going to be sitting pretty nicely here.
The thing that Midlock has kind of had over Zoo with its current builds is it doesn't run out of steam as quickly as Zoo would in this matchup. I mean, if this was just kind of your old style Zoo and Warrior was in this position, it would look really good for the Warrior. But the Midlock does have options, late game options now in Dr. Boom, Sylvanas, Mal'Ganis, Sea Giants even, to kind of keep the pressure going into these later turns. So this Dr. Boom is going to put pressure on the board, but you know, he's still looking pretty comfortable. He has options to deal with a lot of this stuff that's sitting around.
This is so awkward. If he shield slams, he plays nothing else. If he shield slams, he could kill the Void Terror or the Void Caller with his Harrison, and then if something comes out, trade the cool Taskmaster into it and execute it. But he can't play Ysera this turn and remove the Dr. Boom efficiently, which is a little bit rough. And what could happen is if he just plays Ysera and then throws his Harrison and his cool Taskmaster and the Dr. Boom, next turn there is a possibility that Demo can kill the Ysera if he throws the Void Caller in, brings out Doomguard, and the Boombots hit the Ysera. So we'll see.
Nightmare's not brilliant, I think, for the controller here. Ysera's Ysera's Awakening would have been fantastic because it's just a mass board clear. And some of the bulkier minions, like the Emerald Drake, the Laughing Sister's not too bad. Someone can contest the board, but I think Nightmare's one of the weaker players here, especially with Sychry's hand. He doesn't have Grom or anything. Do you think? I think he has to clear this Ysera here. He's got no choice.
Ooh, I'm curious.
Oh, one damage.
He could have just Power Whelmed his Void Caller. Played the MK Boss, Power Whelmed his Void Caller. Oh no, he couldn't do that because it wouldn't kill it. Just kidding.
Oh, it lines up exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awkward.
I don't know if it's really that awkward. He could
Oh no, he has 7 mana.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
It doesn't really matter what comes out, because that Doomguard's going to come out anyway, and he's not going to be able to get the charge from it this turn. So I think he actually wants in-game boss to come out.
Huh. He didn't actually play anything else. Is he playing around Brawl?
Potentially. It's really the only thing that's gonna,
Ruin his day.
yeah, it's gonna punish him at this stage. Sychry just has removal. It's only removal.
And two of them he doesn't have an activator for.
Yeah.
He can even Nightmare as removal, but I wouldn't recommend it.
No. Take 5
Um,
damage, 5 extra damage, but remove it.
Void Terror comes down, makes a massive Void Terror straight after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Get
This
punished
is
super
awful.
hard. Shield slam the void caller and then brawl. I don't know. This is just, there's no great way to do this. Armor up.
The problem is Shield Slam might lose its efficiency this turn. If he pumps enough damage with the Shield Slam can actually deal with the Doom Guard. So this Midlock's actually starting to sustain himself, starting to draw into more cards. The Argus is going to be good. So yep, he's going to punch enough damage here to get rid of all the armor. So it's just going to come down to Brawl, really. That's going to be able to remove any of this board.
And brawl really, Fire War X makes it better because he can kill whatever comes out of it after he brawls. He can also armor up Shield Slam, then execute like a Doom Guard. Yeah, that actually works out quite nicely. He'll be able to stabilize a little bit here. He can fire War Axe. Oh no, he doesn't have enough mana for that.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, Shield Slam Execute is using 2 removal for 1, which is not really efficient, but I don't think the Warrior with his draw so far is in a situation where his health can be used as a resource where he could just, like, say, axe the Doom Guard and execute it. So he might have to either go for that or just axe the Dire Wolf. No, he's going for the... Yeah, I think that's right. You need to sustain as much as possible now, and using your face, the tank 6 damage just wouldn't be efficient.
Yeah. Oh, second Doom Guard.
I think I like Argus here.
Yeah, yeah. Just save Doom Guard next turn for a little bit more burn. See, does he really want to go down to 13? I guess if he taunts up, it's not that big of a deal. But it's getting to the point where Ysera Awakens would kill him.
Yeah, he still has to punch through these taunts. Sylvanas, Fiery War Axe will help him sustain for a little bit, but... Sylvanas actually, if Demo can't finish him off, Sylvanas might be quite awkward.
Well, he's getting to the point where next turn... Okay, so if he plays Sylvanas, and Fiery War Axe is the Direwolf Alpha here. Next turn, Demo could just trade in his Defender of Argus and his Flame Imp into Sylvanas, and then play Doom Guard. And all of a sudden, Sychry's sitting below 10 health.
With not many options in his hand either.
Yeah, a Nightmare and an Execute. 2 cards that have no synergy, and in order to remove the Doom Guard, if he doesn't pick up an Execute activator, he would have to attack into the Doom Guard again, which would put him like at 4 health, and then execute it. He can, after that point, he can be pretty confident that there is no more Power Overwhelmings, and there'd be no more Doom Guards after that. Ooh, Implosion. Implosion is actually really big. Because he can Implosion and then trade in and almost guarantee that there's 1 imp left. That an imp is stolen. Especially if he rolls high. He needs to roll 3, though. 3 or above.
Oh. And just opts to go face here. I think that's fine. So he actually has 7 damage burst from hand there. Bane of Doom can hit the face.
Yes, it can.
Which actually cost one of my opponents his tournament game. He didn't realize he could Bane of Doom my face, and he Bane of Doom one of my minions and lost. It's a bit unfortunate.
He's going to be. I think he's going to be 1 damage off here. He's going to armor up to 9. He has 8 damage. Oh no!
Dark-Iron Dwarf. Wow. Okay. That's an old school card for kind of the zoo era.
I think that's game. I think Sychry just won. He's got Nightmare. There's no way he can clear the Dr. Boom. He's 1 damage off.
He could Bane of Doomguard into the. I think the 4/4's probably more. I don't know. You can Bane of Doom the Doomguard. Oh no, you can't. You can't summon the minion though, can you? Because you'd have to Bane of Doom last. So yeah, this is probably better.
Oh, he's dead. He has to kill the Doomguard.
Wait a minute. Why would you do this? Especially with boombots kind of sitting around.
Alright, well, it looks like that's going to do it. Sychry's going to tie it up. After a long, grueling matchup. That was... Wow, that was looking really bad for Sychry, and all of a sudden he drew a Dr. Boom, and things changed. Demo took so much damage from tapping the whole game. He tapped nearly every single turn. And now it's gonna come down to game number 5 here. Going to be Demo on the Warlock facing Sychry's Druid. So Sychry's just had tough matchup after tough matchup here. He's going to go into another unfavorable matchup and have to win in order to move on to the winners match.
Yeah, Sychry's been kind of fighting tooth and nail here, just really like trying his best to stay in a series, and he's done a good job so far. That Dr. Boom, wow. I mean, I was surprised Demo didn't trade his Doomguard and his Imp into the Dr. Boom just to try and stay alive, but it was looking pretty bleak, I guess, because the controller had a lot more late game options coming up. So it's going to be the match that you said is going to be the big one, the mid-range Warlock against the Druid. Druid's really going to struggle against this matchup, and his opening hand's looking excellent as well. So, you know, Sychry's done it already. He's done it once with the Control Warrior game. Maybe he can do it with the Druid.
Yeah. It is possible, but it's so tough because Demon Zoo fights for board so well. They have so many tools, like with Power Overwhelming and Implosion, that just makes their fight for board super strong. And a lot of times what's happening is the Zoo Warlock is playing multiple creatures a turn and being able to trade up something small into something bigger, where the Druid is usually just playing one medium-sized creature per turn. Which works against classes like Warrior, who have ways to deal with small things and have ways to deal with big things, but struggle with middle-sized things. Demon Warlocks just do so well against mid-range decks.
He's got a perfect curve as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. He can't ask for much more from a Warlock, really.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually surprised he threw away both Shredders.
Yeah, that just shocked me as well, because turn 4 is such an important turn for Druid. It's where their mid-range game starts to develop from turn 4 onwards generally. They do get the option of Shade, but it doesn't really do a lot. It's quite a passive play, regardless of being a minion. But turn 4 onwards is where the Druid starts to pick up, and throwing away both Shredders, he should have at least kept one, and maybe then fished for other things like Keeper of the Grove and Wrath with his other mulligans, but yeah, I don't think it's correct. I don't think it was correct to throw away both of them and not keep one.
He ends up getting back a really good hand, but I think that's really risky. Like if he had thrown away a Potted Shredder and ended up with like an Ancient of Lore or something like that, thrown away both and ended up with 2 more expensive drops. It works out in the end, but he could have been punished really hard for that.
So both these minions are kind of awkward to deal with, because one generates tokens, one splits into tokens, and he doesn't have a swipe to kind of deal with it quite efficiently. So he's got to kind of figure out a way here that he can deal with at least one of them and keep kind of like a stable board. Keep the Grove. An Innovate would really help here, I think, but it's still a bit tough. I guess you could keep the Grove, the Haunted Creeper, and trade into it, but it doesn't feel right. Or maybe just Shade.
Yeah, maybe just shade. Hope for a swipe.
Yeah, that seems yeah. Just pray for a swipe. And Demo's
Yeah,
done some pray. Demo's done some pray in this game. I mean, it's worked out for him mostly.
yeah. Actually, it's between Defender Vargas Void Caller here. And without a demon in his hand, I actually like Defender Vargas better. Puts more sort of like immediate power on the board. You end up sort of putting out a Yeti's worth of power as opposed to just a 3/4.
And it plays round swipe.
Does play around swipe, which, judging by his play last turn, it felt like he was going more towards a swipe-oriented play. Because why else would you trade into a Haunted Creeper, put more power on the board, and then just play a Shade? I guess to cash in on the Haunted Creeper.
So this shade's not going to stay hidden. I mean, druids like to keep these shades hidden away so they can build up a massive Force of Nature turn, but in this matchup, you just have to use it to trade. And he does set up a Bane of Doom, and he gets Mal'Ganis! Oh, man.
My. That is brutal for Sychry, because this allows him to trade into the Druid of the Claw, when otherwise he wouldn't have been able to. And it actually ends up putting more power, because the Imp all of a sudden becomes a 3/3 that spawned from the in-gang boss. I think that just locks up the game right there. I don't know if there's anything that Sychry can do to come back. He can silence the Mal'Ganis, but it still leaves a 9-power creature on the board. You're still staring at 11, 12, 15 damage next turn. If he has just a Doomguard in hand, you're dead. I guess you could wrath down something, but
it's frightening the reach mid-range lock can get with stuff like Bane of Doom. It just extends its power even further when it gets a big swing like Mal'Ganis. I mean, it can kind of whiff on kind of like Blood Imps and stuff. But usually if you get a kind of like a 3-drop or a 4-drop, it's pretty decent. But when you get stuff like Mal'Ganis and Illidan and those big heavy hitters, even Jaraxxus, like a 3/15, that is tough to deal with for some classes. So, yeah, it just shows how powerful this deck is right now.
yeah.
All right.
It's one
So,
damage.
yeah.
12, 13, 17, 2 damage off lethal here. Ouch.
Yeah, I think trading's fine.
You summon an imp, gets buffed. You also get a juggle.
Demo must be really happy. I mean, at the start of the game, before that Bane of Doom, it was kind of just fighting back and forth. It was looking in Demo's favor, and then bam, Mal'Ganis comes up. I've won the game. Thank you very much. I win the series.
Wow. Bane of Doom, such a swing card, and it's crazy. Such a grueling best of 5 series, all determined by turn 6 in a Zoo vs Druid. That matchup is rough anyway. It's really tough. So you can imagine that even if Bane of Doom had someone like a medium-sized demon, it still seemed like Demo was in a really great spot. But Demo is going to move on to the winners match, so he is going to face off against Let Me Farm. And Sychry is going to head down to the 3rd place match, so he's going to face Leo Main. So, of course, he does have a chance to compete for a little bit more GEICO points and money, but he doesn't have a chance to get that automatic qualification to the feature tournament.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it kind of ended that way because the series was I was a really good series, I thought, because it was back and forth. They were really fighting for it. And the last game was almost quite anticlimactic in a way that a Bane of Doom pretty much decided where that game was going to go with that Mal'Ganis. But that just shows you that's what mid-range Warlock does. Sometimes it just completely destroys you with these kind of swing cards. So yeah, congratulations to Demo, he's moving on. So next up, I imagine we're going to have Leo Main versus Sychry in the 3rd place match.
Yep.
And that will be coming up very shortly.
Yeah. We're going to take just a few minute break before jumping to that. During the break, if you guys want to sign up for the next qualifier, the next NA qualifier is on July 20th. Or no, that's wrong. I think it's on Wednesday. So the 23rd. Yeah, I think it's on the 23rd, this Wednesday. It's either on Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah. Wednesday. So if you want to sign up for the next NA qualifier, it is going to be tomorrow. So you can head over to liquidheart.com. On the right side, under upcoming events, is going to be a link that you can go to registration. It's NA qualifier number 5. The next EU qualifier is in on August 3rd, I believe. So in 2 weeks almost. So
Yeah.
you can head over there and sign up for that. It's not region locked. You just have to have cards on the region. So even if you're a North American player, if you want to participate in EU or vice versa, you can as long as you have cards on the region. Keep in mind, though, the GEICO points that you earn from each qualifier are separate. So it's separate for each region. You can also head to geico.onog.gg if you want more information about how GEICO points work, or if you want to enter in to win an official TSM PC or get a GEICO quote. But we are going to go to a quick break. But third place match between Leo Main and Sychry is going to be coming up next.